environment of protection, like the early years that you had with your mother, and actually Cancer is represented by the mother figure, which is changing now in the way of male and female, but it still says that the basic concept of what a mother figure there is to protect you, house you, hold you in their arms, bring you to their breast, and that form is there in all of life, that nesting figure of individual influence. But there's a larger influence that's ruled by the opposite sign, which is Capricorn, which is the nesting of social family. So the social family is our governments, is our world situation. I just had a talk a few months ago on the State of the World address, and I spoke about this year as being the worst year ever in recent history, in 2020, is because there's a certain doming effect that is being affected with outside influence. It's almost as if there's radiation that is coming into the actual aspect of what our structures are. So our structures will change in certain ways, and there'll be a lot of fear because of that, because people that build on large-term structures and actually follow a pattern of structure in their life will find that their structures aren't as strong anymore. They'll be affected by this wave of radiation that is really coming in the form of a pandemic. So it really says that the fears that are there of unprotected situation, the larger protection is the social family, as opposed to the personal family. Moon-based dome and Saturn-based dome is the bigger dome that is the farthest reaching of our cycles, that we can see. So that's why Saturn rules that bigger dome, because it's the last planet that we can actually see. The rest of those had to be founded by technology. So Uranus was founded when the United States became a country, which is saying Uranus represents we the people. That's what Uranus really says, is that we begin to realize that we are greater than just separating societies. We have a great idea of a spiritual connectivity. Then Neptune was founded in the 1850s, 1840 something, which had to do with slavery. Neptune rules slavery. It rules really coming down to the point that there's really a greater essence to just connectivity. There's this essence throughout everything, which is this spiritual saying that the tree has the similar essence in the way of this vibrational, you could say, chakras, as we have chakras for our body, but you could say that everything has that same similar flow of energy. So Neptune brings us that greater understanding, and it also brought us the idea that all individuals are the same. All individuals should be exactly the same, and that's why we brought up the Civil War. The Civil War was that very war that said, what's the difference between a skin color? What's the difference between a form of government that you're going by, or a religion that you're going by? It really is kind of decimating the feel of separateness. And then we have Pluto, and Pluto brought in, which was the 1919, brought in not only the rights of voting, but it also brought in the whole concepts of breaking the atom. So we're really separating that individual into something that can become really massive. And that massiveness could be very destructive or very constructive. So it really just says the nuclear age, which was born when Pluto was founded, is something that is there in the essence of one little tiny particle that can just completely annihilate things, or can be harnessed. And that's what we're kind of figuring out now, is how to truly harness this essence of this electricity, of this power that's in the very smallest of situations. We're colliding things to see what happens when we do those little tiny particles, and see what comes out of that. And the very beginnings of that colliding, they thought, oh, well, you're going to open up a wormhole. You're going to open up a...
They said you could destroy the world.
You could destroy the world. There was panic. And there still could be a situation. Who knows if in the initiations of that particle may have been the slow movement of what's going on now. Who knows what changes, and those are the factors of what Pluto represents. Pluto, as of now, is the forefront and the representative of what's called the Kuiper belt, and the Kuiper belt is sort of like the meteor belt that not the meteor, but the crater, the asteroid belt that is between Mars and Jupiter. There's an asteroid belt of all these little particles, but way out there, there's this greater, bigger particles that's called the Kuiper belt, and that's beyond Neptune, and Pluto was the first one that's found because it was almost right at the edge of it, and now we're finding these other Plutos are out there, Eris and Maki, and a lot of the things that they're calling these greater objects. But as you get further out, you get less personal. The planets that are really close to the Sun, Mercury and Venus and the Earth, along with the Moon is just the representative of the Earth, those guys are really saying individualism is the most important. Let me get my character, let me put my pants up, let me put my mind in right in a sense of knowing what my decisions are, what my likes are. I hate Trump, I love Trump. All those things are really in that personal area of decision making of who you are. But as you spread out, as you get further out, you start to get in more global thinking, and then you start to get into things that are not beyond global thinking, which is the planets that are beyond the borders of Saturn. Those invisibles are there, and until they were founded, only a very small amount of individuals would step up to it, because it means that you would go beyond the structures of what's around you. So imagine yourself being in a village in the 1600s, before Uranus was founded, and being very Uranian because you were born with this Uranus right on your ascendant. So you're a Uranian person. So you're saying, gee, I'm going to just buck the society. I don't really want to follow the structures of this village that says this is the way the relationships are, this is the way the governments are. I have a better idea, or I don't have to follow that because I'm my own individual. Well, then they got pushed off. They were crazies, or they were people that were not accepted by it. But as soon as Uranus was founded, then you started to realize that there's something that you don't have to do for society. There's things that you can step up and become, realizing that there's actually more in you than just the structures that you build around you through other people and the things you accept from your father, from your mother, down the road in the way of certain cultural situations. Uranus breaks the cultural demands of being a lemming, in a sense, in a bad way, which means that you just follow things because that's the way society tells you to follow them, or the way that things are. So Uranus makes you think further than that and says, well, that's not necessarily the way things are. There may be some concepts that are even greater than. That's why Uranus brought in our greatest industrial age. It brought in the things that of the greater times of inventions. It's actually changing the present to build for a new future, or a greater future. So it's all the new things that come in the way of our mindset. So think of
and new things that you're discovering. So you're saying if we discover something, another universe, whatever, it's going to affect us as well, even though we don't know it affected us from the very beginning, but it's out there to affect us. So you're finding a chronology between discovering these different planets and how civilization, how humans work.
As you begin to, and they said there's a really big one out there that's invisible because it's just so far out, and you can't.
Well, they found suns that are 100,000, 100 million times bigger than our sun. That's pretty big.
That's pretty big.
That's pretty big.
And black holes are, even more so large, and just.
Well, I always say we're just a very infant society, world.
We're a grain of sand on a beach.
Yeah.
But that grain of sand is important. That's why there's that dual concept that's going on with cyclic situations. There's this ebb and flow of daytime to nighttime, which is right. We just had the changeover, which is kind of hard to adjust to today. But that ebb and flow of day and night, at least for the Earth going around the Sun, creates that equinox of the spring and the fall, into the summer and the winter of the high points and the low points. So there's that north and south pole of the Earth going around the Sun, which really creates the seasons. All that is actually happening in everything. and it's just
It
us.
affects the plants and the humans.
Exactly.
Everybody. Yeah.
And it's an
Makes sense.
interconnective situation, like you were speaking about before, is that there's this binding factor to life. There's this thing that says, well, vibrations are just as strong in the most smallest thing, or resonance is a better word than vibrations. This resonance situation is just as strong in the smallest thing as the largest thing. So this gives you the great concept to think that within your body there's nothing different in the way of the greatness of it, or in your mind in the way of what you can do, than the very first person ever born, the greatest person that ever rose to the highest points. You are walking individual of that same essence.
Actually convey that through my Be Fantastic movement.
Yeah.
Believe in yourself.
Of course.
Be positive about every situation.
Of course.
You know, live life
Just
to the
word
fullest.
fantastic is a very Uranian situation.
Well, fantastic means unimaginably good and beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's really working well
Right.
with my audience, you know. And I love to talk to people. I'm sure you can go on for hours here.
I do go on for hours.
You do go on for
because
and we're going to have more of Dan, because Dan is a fantastic human being. I'm going to try to convince him to be one of our ambassadors of positivity. He may be working on a project for, with the fantastic movement. Thank you so much for your time. This was an impromptu thing. You're not supposed to shake hands, everybody, but you can't live in fear. You cannot.